one of the things that you guys mentioned when you sent over your prediction piece for our 2024 predictions roundup post at LifeRap on the blog, you mentioned that you're really concerned about social media and deep fakes driving a lot of false narratives online. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, first let's define what a deep fake is, because I think there's a lot of people just aren't aware. But this is any time where you have either authentic video or video that's been corrupted or video that's just completely been made up. Because everybody can now go to Bing and say create an image for me, and it'll just create it. And it's not a real person, although it looks like a real person. So technology is getting better in that sense to help leverage deep fakes, which is your neighbor, throwing a cat across the room, but that never happened. But somebody can go in there and create that to happen. Where we think, I mean, we're going into an election year here in the States, so what we think is a lot more of this is going to come out. You're going to have pictures and images and audio of people saying or doing things that will influence the election. I saw a poll that said, almost 100% of the security researchers think that there will be interference from some type of deep fake. So we're going to see this. We're also going to see this in corporate security, for that matter, because it's becoming economized to a point where you can just pull this software off the shelf and you can create it. Any of us, you don't have to be a hacker, the wear hoodie and only type in green letters. You can now get this stuff from GitHub, and anybody can go out and do this. We're seeing this. I was just on a podcast on a briefing from ICS2 or ISC2, and they were saying revenge pornography is going to be quite significant. I shouldn't say pornography, because that is an indication that there was that it was something they agreed to, but that term revenge porn is something that we're going to see also leveraged there. So we're just destroying people's lives that had no intentions of saying and doing these things. Additionally, this is why you see so many law enforcement agencies using body cams, right? And almost everyone is using these things, and they push this body cam footage out really quick because they know that there's been a public outcry for, hey, where's the transparency here? So it's going to start affecting, our presidential candidates here in the States. It's already been quite an issue, but in corporate security, we're going to see this in real time, where you get a call from the CEO and the CEO says, hey, go run down to the 7-Eleven and load up on green dot cards. I need to give them to investors or something. It'll be, and boy, it sure sounds like the boss, and the boss told me to go do it, and I'm going to go do it. Those things that have been happening, Carlos mentioned it earlier, which is called what we call business email compromise. We're going to see that those same tactics just applied with deepfake. And so, I'm on a deep fake task force where I give my knowledge and experience to Interpol, and we were putting together a great go-to guide for international law enforcement to go out there and really understand, how do we enforce these things? Because the question in hackers or hacking has been a challenge for a long, long time, which is attribution. Where was what jurisdiction is involved in this situation, and how do we stop it? So this criminality that is going to be occurring is going to be quite broad and really unregulated, or at least unchallenged for the most part, because it's hard to say where things started. There are a lot of good technologies coming out. Cyabra is one of them. If you haven't looked at that, take a look at it. Cyabra looks at internet posts or social media posts and tries to track and trend them. Where did they start? How did they begin? Who was the first one to document this? Who was the first one to push it out? And that can help us understand how things are flowing in social media, because that's where the deep fakes are going to end up. And they're going to, they have ended up already on CNN and Fox News and all the major news networks, but it's more prevalent in the TikToks of the world.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Rob, with deepfakes, it's not just that. like today, we already have a tremendous amount. I mean, the numbers have gone up in impersonations, numbers have gone up in takeovers, account takeovers,
ATO.
all those other things, which is funny because the more and more executive of companies are accepting that social media is the way to go, and they are even getting more and more involved in social media. The more and more deepfakes are coming out about them, and the more of the simpler impersonation and the account takeovers are coming out of it. You know, Scott knows this. I've helped a couple of very close friends of mine and family members just on my side with the company I work for on removing those impersonations and those account takeovers. And those are happening more and more and more, which again, it's going to be a lot easier with quantum computing if we're not getting on top of it, using future of the cryptography if we're not getting on top of it, and blockchain security if we're not getting on top of it. All of these things are going to make it easier and easier and easier for deepfakes to happen. And we're just not, we got to get ahead of it.
Well, and to your point,
Yeah.
Carlos, about deepfake or account takeovers, impersonation being somebody's pretending to be somebody they're not online. Carlos helped me and my company with one of those issues, and so those are harder and harder to, one, detect, and to take down, because, well, Carlos can't say this, I can. How do these big social media companies make their money? They say they have this many daily active users, monthly active users in the billions, and then give us more money so we can keep building to the next B and next billion. And so you to allow more to be on the platform, you reduce your trust and safety folks. And while trust and safety is a relatively new term or relatively new career, it's vitally important. We saw this when Musk took over Twitter. We're seeing this as Zuck is reducing workforce earlier this year. So the investment just isn't there because they want the numbers. I always say they want the friction, they want the churn, they want people online arguing because that brings eyeballs, right? Unfortunately, it also costs people a lot more than just a chat, or a post.
Yeah, this is exactly why people need to get on generative AI right away, so it understands that is a deep fake. Yeah. We won't allow it, right? That is not real. We won't allow it. That's an impersonation. We won't allow it. And the system itself blocks it before it comes in. So all these things are in, but here's what a lot of people are not doing. They're not even looking at their own social media and see if there's copy and pastes of it out there. Like, people are not even thinking about this. Like, search yourself every once in a while and go see what's out there, right? I may have a Carlos Francisco that does exactly what I do, but only talks badly about our wonderful industry, right? Like, I don't know, but I mean, hey, so a lot of people are not doing those simple things, Rob. So we got to get ahead of that.
That's my bot. I have a Carlos bot.
I want to know what the Scott Walker bot is doing online, what kind of mischief he's getting up to. But yeah, I think, and like you guys have been saying, like it's so important, I think, to be using this technology now and seeing what it's capable of, because that's where you kind of, at least from my perspective, develop that kind of imagination of what the risks could be, or when you start encountering this stuff online. I had an interesting conversation one time. It was after that Titan disaster with the Titanic a couple of months ago, and there was an image going around on TikTok of the video game controller online that a friend of mine showed me, and I was like, well, that's just an AI image. Like how would they get that image, right? And it hadn't occurred to this person because they're not even really aware of what this technology is capable of, and so just starting to get to use it. But I've been blown away of how much things have changed. Like, I wrote an article on the Life Raft blog, I don't know, 9 months ago, 10 months ago. And I was talking about, like, oh, here's how you can spot an AI image just yourself, right? And in the images at the time, yeah, they looked okay. They looked realish, but there was a lot of issues with it. And now that article is so outdated. Everything is like, they're so polished. Like, you need technical software to figure out what's real and what's not sometimes. Because, like, just eyeballing
probably
it
by 2025, it'll be imperceptible. It'll be imperceptible. You will not know if that's a video of you or a recreation of your family member. You won't know. You won't be able to distinguish the audio. I mean, this is the old grandparents scam, and it's not that old. It's relatively new, but it's an adaptation of that. The grandparent couldn't tell that wasn't little Jimmy calling them in real time. Well, now it's going to be somebody who sounds exactly like little Jimmy calling you in real time. So this is where, having the next generation of firewalls or something, that antiviruses, that we're gonna need to be able to detect those real images and audio.
Did you guys see that Joe Rogan Justin Trudeau interview, the fake
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
That's-
But it
it's
was
massive.
good. It was good.
I mean,
That's
even
awesome.
even when oh God, oh Lord, Tesla,
Elon Musk.
When Elon, right, was on stage and he's talking and his voice is changing, like the actors that were popping up, and as he's talking about this new thing, I mean, it's amazing what's going on. But I do have a question for both of you guys, maybe for Scott, because I know you were involved in this. On that OSINT process that's available to everyone, is there, I've used a bunch of like different pictures stuff, like Google Images or something like that, to go back and see if I could search the images, right? Is there one right now for kind of deep fakes like that, where you can do a quick search and be like, yeah, no, deep fake?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I would struggle to list them, but yeah, that's the big push right now, is how do you identify them, right? I mean, there's to Rob's point earlier, there's ways to look at them and say, oh, well, that image has 4 fingers, not 5, right? And there are little things that it does that AI doesn't quite put together. So that's the real challenge, I think, is I think we need these companies to be out there developing it. I don't know, Rob.
There was one, I think it was, I'll go find this, Bellingcat. I was reading this article, Bellingcat, about how to identify if it's an AI image. I think the app was like allai.com. I'll go research it
awesome.
and put the notes in, and you just
Great.
you flip it, you upload the image, and it tells you if it's an AI image or not.
Awesome.
And so there's a tool like that. I'll go find it, and I'll put it in the description for that and send it to you afterwards.
And I want to say, Rob, it had a percentage that it could confirm that it was or wasn't AI, right? And that's really what they're doing right now, is they'll say, yeah, we think, to some X% that it is or isn't a real image.
I know they're doing that with like generative AI, like written stuff for sure. And I'm not sure how reliable it's been.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's like I've seen stuff I know I've written without ChatGPT, and it's saying it's AI, and then the opposite, where I've used ChatGPT for some serious stuff, and it was coming back like, oh, this was human written, and I'm like, no, that was not human written. Like, I don't know how reliable they've been, but I know there's some coming out.
Here's one thing that's for sure: if it's free, then you're teaching some other AI. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, if it's free to load.
And Rob, what you don't know is that your name is short for robot.
Oh, no.
So there you go. So that's why when you type things, automatically it goes, yeah, no, that's a computer. That's a robot. Rob, right? Just throwing it out there.
This whole podcast, I might just be like a really sophisticated AI bot for life rafts.
Canadians are very sophisticated with AI.
Maybe it's not even a real country. Maybe it's just all been bots to fake something. We're getting way off topic here. Let's go.